Hey guys, welcome to my first Q&A on this channel, and thank you so much for sending in your questions. The first question comes from Art of Jessie Renee on YouTube. I have a question. I know Outsiders is the main story that you're working on right now, but is Sierra Amera ever going to make a comeback? Or is it one of those projects that helped you become a better writer and it's retired now? I would really like to work on Sierra Amera again, or at least do something with those characters. For those who don't know, Sierra Amera was a animal fantasy Christian allegory type of story that I tried to write a long time ago, like maybe 15 years ago. It was inspired by The Lion King, but didn't have any of the same characters, so technically not a fan fiction. The main character was an adolescent lion named Genghis, who was forced to leave his pride and went on adventures, meeting other characters, all while on a spiritual journey and trying to find a new place to call home. I think I still have most of those old files stashed away somewhere. Last summer, I actually came up with another lion story that I plotted all the way through. None of those characters have names yet, but the protagonist reminds me a lot of Genghis, so I've been thinking about recycling him and some of the other characters into this new story. It's about a pride whose king has gone away for a while, and over time, everyone stopped believing he would ever return. They started disobeying his laws, which were only there to protect them, so they started getting sick and experiencing other consequences. And there's one lion who still believes because of the stories his mother told him. So the rest of the pride gets angry with him for being different and starts to mistreat him, especially after he convinces another lion in the pride to believe in the king's return and obey the laws also. Next question is from Encrypted OS on DeviantArt. You once said you had to research computers/hacking for a specific scene in your writing journey. My question is, have you figured out how to hack into the FBI's data centers yet with the knowledge you've uncovered thus far? Well, maybe the bigger question is, if I did, would I tell? I learned so much about hacking while doing research for that scene. I learned about backdoors, brute force attacks, different kinds of phishing. I learned that closed networks are hardly ever closed. They may start out that way, but over time, people tend to start adding things here and there for convenience sake, creating vulnerabilities. I think my characters are going to use a watering hole attack against the council, where they plant malware on a site that they know a council member is going to visit, and use that to gain access and get what they need. At least that's how it's written now. Let me know if I could do it better. But for all the research I did, hacking is obviously an extremely complicated subject that I know I'm only scratching the surface of. Despite what comes up in the search results when you look up Psalm 7 on DeviantArt, I myself am not a hacker. Those people are paranoid. Okay, moving on. Calvary Academy on Facebook asked the following 3 questions. How long have you been drawing for? Honestly, I've been drawing since I was old enough to hold a crayon. I can't remember a time when I wasn't drawing or at least creating something. I used to only draw animals, but sometime around 2010 or so, I went through a Hey Arnold phase and started drawing humans in different styles. You'd think I'd be better at it by now. Which characters and Outsiders do you enjoy writing/drawing the most? I definitely enjoy drawing Robin and Paul, and which one I prefer varies depending on my mood. When I'm in a happier mood, I like drawing Paul because his personality is more upbeat and he's energetic and just a lot of fun. When I'm feeling down or in a more serious mood, that's when I draw more Robin. And for writing, I guess Robin is my favorite since I get to be 100% inside her head. I kind of like getting to experience the world and other characters through her eyes. Do you draw a character first and then come up with their story, or vice versa? It depends on the project. For Outsiders, the characters came first, but I have other projects where the story idea definitely came first and I built the characters around that. The rest of the questions are from Thy Word is Truth on YouTube. What is your favorite book of all time, outside the Bible, which I assume is a given? It's really hard for me to pick just one. I like almost anything by Angela Hunt, but especially her Legacies of the Ancient River trilogy, which starts with a book called Dreamers. So I guess you could say Dreamers is my favorite. It's about Joseph, the favored son from Genesis who God gave the gift of interpreting dreams. I'll actually be talking more about that book in episode 10 of The Band Writer. A close runner-up would be The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, simply because it's dystopian and I like her writing writing style. Worst books you've read. I don't remember the title of it, but when I was in high school, I started getting really into Native American fiction. So one day I picked up this new book at Kmart that had a Native American woman on the cover. I thought it was going to be just like the other books I've been reading, with adventures and tribal rivalries and whatnot, but it ended up being a really uncomfortable romance where the guy was just hooking up with whoever and the woman was excusing it. The only reason I kept reading was out of curiosity to see how it would end, and because there was a mountain lion in it that I kind of liked. What are the main things that drive you to write stories? I believe stories allow us to connect with people and kind of cross divides with messages that would otherwise fall on deaf or hostile ears. Back when I was working on Sierra Amera, a person who used to butt heads with me a lot over my Christian beliefs actually sent me a private message one day saying my story had made them reconsider their beliefs. That really shocked me. I don't know if that person ever changed their mind or got saved, but their message really opened my eyes to the power of storytelling. Right now, I think the enemy is using that power a lot more effectively than the church is. They take things that are ugly and package them as cute and sympathetic to normalize things that should never even be tolerated, and the audience swallows it. If the enemy can do that with something ugly, then the church should be doing it with something beautiful. Tenfold. I'm just one person, so I can't do much, but I want to do as much as I can. What are some of your writing/storytelling related pet peeves? When I'm telling someone about my story and they ask if I based a specific character on them. That's a little annoying to me. This only happened once. Someone thought I based a villain on them and I have no idea why they thought that. The two are nothing alike. The villain was completely original, and now I worry almost every time I start fleshing out an antagonist, I worry that someone's gonna think it's them and get offended. Also, when someone thinks I'm basing a protagonist on myself, or they ask which character in a story is me. All of my characters have elements of me because I'm writing them, but none of them are wholly and deliberately me. You know what I mean? I just want a little credit for creativity. I guess when someone assumes I'm doing a self-insert, I feel like they're saying I'm not creative enough to come up with unique characters. What would you say is the most important element in writing a good story? Personally, I would say it's the characters. If readers don't connect with the characters, they aren't going to care much about the rest of the story. So it's always important to have likable and interesting characters. What are some other story ideas you have that you want to tackle after Outsiders? Ooh, I have quite a few works in progress lined up. There's the animal fantasy Christian allegory that I mentioned earlier with the lions. Then there's Bigot, a story I plotted years ago about a high school student who's bullied almost to the point of death after her family's bakery is targeted by rainbow activists. I also have one that I'm calling Unjabbed, and it's based on what would have happened if the Supreme Court had sided with Joe Brandon on the snakebite mandate. What was that, a year ago? Last year? Whatever that was. I have to talk in code here on YouTube, or I'm risking getting a strike. In that story, the protagonist is a soft-spoken 20-something art teacher who slowly loses everything and is driven to desperation because she refuses to take the bite. Another idea I have is for a story about a bitter, middle-aged woman who's given the chance to relive her teen years to fix the mistakes that she believes ruined her life. She mostly ends up using the opportunity to get back at people who she knows are gonna mistreat her later on, the people she blames for messing her up. But she becomes so focused on getting revenge that she ends up missing an opportunity to prevent a tragedy, and that forces her to basically confront herself and see that she's never been perfect either. My hope is that once I break ground by publishing Outsiders, these other stories will be a lot easier and take a lot less time to write. Hopefully. Well, that's all for this episode. If you'd like to help me out, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Another way you can help is to check out my Etsy store for fun and unique items. Just follow the link in the description below. And if you're a Christian artist, writer, or other creative type of person, please consider joining my Facebook community called All Christian Artists and Writers. Shalom!